Hi, everyone. Welcome to Feeding People. This is Amy Dolan. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you're with us at the table tonight for a very special episode. We've got some really fun things in store tonight. Thanks always for listening to our show and going to Apple Podcasts, rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show. We appreciate it so much. It's really helping us get going as we're launching this show. And thank you for your feedback. Thank you for sharing the podcast on social media and for telling your friends and family about it. It means so much to us. So much love and thank you, thank you, thank you. So tonight we're at the table for a very special episode. We are 5 episodes in already to our very first season of Feeding People. And I thought it would be great to have this kind of bonus special behind the scenes episode tonight. Kind of share some of our favorite moments so far of the first 5 episodes, give you a little peek behind the scenes. I don't know about you, but I love that kind of stuff. Like, I love to see how shows are really made. And so if you like that kind of stuff, you're going to love tonight as well. We're going to do 10 episodes in this very first season. So we're halfway through. And like I said, I thought it would be just really great to pause and share some behind the scenes favorite moments. And in order to do that tonight, I have a very, 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 very special guest at the table with me. He is actually one of the producers of the Feeding People podcast. And oh man, is he good looking. Welcome to the table tonight, Kelly Ryan Dolan, my husband of 15 years. Welcome.
Thank you. It's I would say it's good to be here, but I've been at the table for all 5 episodes this far.
It's kind of your table.
Yes, it's my table, but not like this. We actually can like see each other. That's new and different, because normally I sit to the side of you, and you always say it's actually a little bit hard because you would love to get like some eye contact with me to see like, is it going well, or that sort of thing. And here it is. I can tell you it's going well. It's going well.
I'm so glad we're sitting across the table looking at each other, deep into each other's eyes tonight, Kelly. It is so weird. I don't know why we started that. The very first episode, you sat to my right, and I couldn't see you at all, but I trust my guests. They're looking into your beautiful eyes. And so I'm just like, okay, I think everything is fine because they can see Kelly. So hopefully.
if Kelly's hit the panic button, your guest will know. They'll know before you, but then you'll eventually know.
That's right. Well, I'm so glad it's me and you tonight. And you have been an incredible producer of the show. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, some of the behind the scenes of what it takes to produce this show. But let's start. I want to ask you a couple questions about this season and how it's been going. And maybe let's just start at the beginning.
Well, wait a minute. This is how this works every time, and we've got an opportunity to do it the other way around.
What does that mean?
Meaning you're the one always asking the questions. Mm-hmm. And also, furthermore, I never actually get to say anything during the podcast recording, because that would be awkward, just me off on the side of the table shouting out questions or laughing at things. But that's actually one of the hardest things to do, is to sit and listen to these fantastic conversations and not interject something that I'm thinking about or ask a follow-up question or whatever. So I get a chance to talk and ask some questions, and you get a chance that you don't normally have, which is to answer some questions.
Oh.
So what if we started that way?
Okay. I like this. I can see now, like, normally I'm the boss. So now I can see, okay, you're kind of the boss tonight too.
I like that. That works for me.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
All right, let's go. What do you want to ask me?
Oh boy. No, I'm just kidding. I've given this some thought. I would love to know 5 episodes in the can, as they say in the business. I would love to know, like, from you, as you've sat now and talked to 5 different people and had 5 very different conversations, what's been most meaningful to you about what you've heard or experienced in those conversations?
It's totally different perspective to be sitting on this side of the question. Like asking the questions.
Well, that's good. You're the host.
Okay, but yes, so many moments have been so meaningful to me. It's been really, really special to sit with my friends. That's been really special. It's meant a lot to me. I feel like each guest has shared their story, and I've loved, probably like my favorite question that I've asked each guest is what food meant to you growing up. And I assumed, like, even, when when Chi-Chi was my first guest and I asked that question for the first time, like I knew she had something really special to say. But then for each guest to really say something meaningful about food and the role that food played in their childhoods and, with their families, that's just really, really, really special and meaningful to me and reminds me like we all have a story about food. Food influenced us.
Right.
In some way growing up, and that my guests would share those very like personal and intimate stories about what food meant growing up has been really meaningful to me. I've really like appreciated them sharing that.
Yes. I'm going to be totally honest. It's been super meaningful for me too. When we were first working on the show and first talking about the format of it and what were the kinds of conversations that you wanted to have with people around the table, you told me that this is a question that you wanted to do and that you specifically wanted to ask each of your guests this question. And one of the most surprising things for me was that like every answer is so different. And now, like on the other side of it, 5 episodes in, it's like, well, duh, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different childhood and it means something different to them. But for me, it's not that I didn't think it would work. I just didn't know it would be that meaningful or that it would be that different from person to person.
Yeah.
So.
Right. It's so true. And I feel like now it's like a question I just want to ask everybody. Like I feel like every time I'm at the table with someone, microphone or not, mostly I'm at tables with people without microphones. But I want to like ask everyone now. It's like the question that's always on my mind. What has food meant to you? And how did it influence you growing up? So it's just been really fun.
Anything else that's been particularly meaningful?
I think, of course, like I really believe the magic of the table. I really believe like when you sit with friends or family or even people you're getting to know for the first time at a table with food, like magic is going to happen. And I think just to hear from my guests, so many of the guests have described different moments like that for them where they've sat at a table and magic has happened. And I don't know, it's meant a lot to me. I feel like it's not just me who's like, oh yeah, I love the table, but nobody else does.
Right.
Like everyone has a story about a special table that they were at a restaurant or a home or something like that. And it's just been personally, like it's been really special to like resonate with other people as they've shared their stories about special moments at tables.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask was if it's resonating more than you even thought that it might have.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are all friends, right? I invited friends for the first season so that we could, have fun and chat and all that. And I have learned so much about them. Like
even the people that you knew well already.
So
like Chi-Chi's one of your closest friends,
and
but you learned
I learned so much about both of them and that was really, really meaningful to me. And I feel like we should all take the time to like sit at a table with great food and ask good questions and really listen. And that's been like just kind of like a side benefit to this show for me. I feel like I'm like getting to know my friends even better.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Anything you said a little bit about like it resonating with people and that feeling good, not that you didn't think it was going to happen, but maybe that it's happened even more than you thought. Has there been anything else that's been surprising? Either something about the show has been better than you expected, or somebody has said something that's been really surprising, or there's been a theme that's carried through from week to week that's felt like, oh, I would not have thought about that before I did this show.
Yes. Darren, so many things. Darren's episode on, he talks a bunch about advocating for himself and advocating for his friends who have food allergies and food preferences. That really resonated with me. And specifically just he was talking about growing up with a mom who let him make food choices and how from a young age that helped him learn to advocate for himself and say what he liked and didn't like. I feel like that, we've been using that word even a lot between us, right? Like how we can advocate for ourselves more and more.
And not like not like we are using it more than we used to. Like it wasn't even fully part of the kind of language that we would use up until a couple of weeks ago when Darren sat here and used that language, and now we've been using it a lot.
We've been using it so much. And I just think about that was surprising and so lovely. And I really loved, I always want to be advocating for people. And I'm thinking, of course, always about like how I'm doing that for the people in my life. But when he talked about advocating for people around their food preferences, that really like was special to me. And I've been surprised by how often I'm thinking about that.
That's actually a little surprising to me because you're so good at that already. So you mentioned this, I think, in the conversation with Darren, but I have a dairy allergy. And so for almost as long as you've known me, I haven't been able to do milk, cheese, any kind of dairy. And you're constantly mindful of that and helping others know that before we go over to someone's house or before a holiday get together with family, that sort of thing. Like you've been my advocate a lot. And I resonated with what Darren said about just the fatigue part of it. You just sometimes get tired of having to say, I'm sorry, could you adjust the meal or could you provide something different? Or, and I've not been always great at advocating for myself either. And so there's part of me that's like, that for you, even that was not new, but it meant something specific to you or encouraged you to do even more of that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, of course, I think about it in terms of you all the time, but I think even just broadening my mind, like that's a way when I'm thinking about advocating for my friends in other ways, this is a new category to me that I could be thinking about. Even just I loved what he said about even asking people up front what they like or what they don't like. I try to do that, but I actually thought of some people who come over, some of our best friends who come over regularly who I haven't asked. And I just assume like they'll eat anything I make because they come over so often. But I think Darren's episode really did open my mind to like, no, a lot of times people are tired of advocating for themselves or want to be polite or things like that, right? Yeah. So you can just ask.
Yeah. What about themes? Like, has there been something that for you that, in all of the episodes or like running sort of throughout a few of the episodes feel like a theme has emerged that feels surprising or just like you're aware of it now in a way that you weren't before?
Yes, I feel like a theme that definitely has emerged is in some shape or form, every guest has talked about creating space for others. And they've talked about that in a variety of ways, right? Like my mom and my Aunt Myra talked about it in creating space in their homes for families to come over and be together. Rich talked about creating space in the South Loop community table. And even though he's not a chef or a cook or doesn't, make food a lot, he creates space for 100 people to eat dinner every Sunday night. And that has been a really, really lovely theme. I love that people who don't cook or aren't professional chefs, right? Like Rosario was our only professional trained chef that we've had on. But yet everyone talked about creating space for people to be seen and known and eat good food and gather at tables in great spaces. And so that's been I've been surprised that theme has emerged amongst all of them and really delighted. That's a good theme.
Yes. What's that?
That's a good theme.
That's a good theme. It's good. It is good. And are you finding that that's what, are people resonating with that? I know I get like text messages or people that I see that have listened to the show and know that I'm producing it, or they see me, mention it on social media and they're telling me what they think about it, what they're excited about, what they're resonating with. I'm not even on the show, right? Like I'm like sitting and recording the show and producing the show with Matt, but like you're the one having the conversation. So I can only imagine like how many people are talking to you every day. And I know some of it, obviously, because I said you share some of this with me, but like, are people resonating with that theme specifically? And is that fulfilling for you some of the hope of why you even set out to do the show?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my whole hope in doing this show was that we could highlight the millions of different ways that people feed people. And regardless of where you are, whether you make dinner for 100 people, whether you're a professional chef, whether you're home trained like myself, you could see how in someone's story you could relate to someone's story and think, oh wow, I can feed people because that's a way to express love and care towards them, whether it's thinking about how I can feed my little family or my neighbors or whoever. And that is definitely resonating. Like, that's what I feel like I hear the most from people is everyone's connecting with different guests too. That's what I love about it, right? Like, they're all so different. Everyone, various people tell me, oh, I love this one. I love this one. I really learned something in this one. And people are resonating with the idea that anyone can do it. I mean, I feel like if you can learn anything from me, it's like anyone can do it, right? I was with someone today who was asking about my, Bible college and my training. And she said, so you kind of DIY'd your career. And I was like,
oh, yes.
Absolutely, I did.
With pride.
I just DIY'd my career. I don't know. I feel like that's a great message, right? If you need training for your career, get training. But if I can do it, you can do it.
Right. If your goal or your aspiration is to be a chef in a kitchen at a restaurant, then yes, you may need some training. But if you're sitting and listening to the show and what you most want to do is just meaningfully invite people over or feed people in some way, you don't need the culinary degree. There's other paths, which... Again, you shared a little bit about this in the intro episode, the little episode we did before episode 1 with Chi-Chi, but that's a huge part of your own story.
Yeah. So many of the guests talked about, just if you have a couch, order takeout food and invite friends to eat food on your couch.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yes.
I love a beautiful dinner party too. That's great. But just do what you can, create space with what you have. And that's what I feel like people are resonating with. What do I have? What can I do? Who's in my life that I can show love to? And just try some food on them.
Yes. And it's occurring to me for the first time, and perhaps that's a problem because I'm the producer.
So what have you learned?
No, it's occurring to me. It's occurring to me that I give you a hard time. You like to name things exactly what they are or what they're about. And so feeding people is about what? Feeding people. But it's not cooking for people,
right.
Although cooking and the enjoyment of cooking and the enjoyment of eating food is part of it. It's more than that. It's bigger than that. It is about feeding people, not just cooking for people.
Yes.
So light bulb moment for me.
Light bulb moment, Kelly. I love it. One other thing I wanted to say that has really surprised me about the show is just that it's working. I imagined this idea in my head for so long because I love my friends so much, and I really wanted everyone to hear from them, and I wanted people to just see here's how we all have conversations with our friends at a table of food. But I wasn't totally sure, as is my way. Idea in my head.
Let's do this.
Let's act.
I hope it works.
Not totally sure if that would translate. Would it really work to eat a meal and record at our table? Would it really work to, hear from friends? And I feel like it's working. A lot of people have commented that they feel like they're with my friends at the table. And I'm like, you are with my friends at the table. That's what we're doing. So I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that it's working. And also, I didn't totally think through how vulnerable this would feel. And you remember this after the first episode, you edited the first episode and then posted, it was so exciting. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. We did not think this through. Seriously, take it down. I was begging you to take it down.
No, and I want people to know how non-hyperbolic this is. You're not exaggerating at all.
No.
So it's just a tiny peek behind the curtain. We had thought that maybe we would take a little bit longer to produce the first show, the first couple of shows, and release a little bit later. We'd even talked a little bit, maybe even waiting until 2019, and then
Chi-Chi. It was Chi-Chi's suggestion to launch at Thanksgiving.
And when you told me that, maybe less than a month before Thanksgiving, I nearly swallowed my tongue, and but then we were like, yeah, let's do it. This is good. This this deadline is gonna push us to. So we motored to get that first episode done and all of the things surrounding it, like the website and all the back end stuff for the podcast and
the music.
Right. All that to say, like, it was a huge push to get there. And episodes, 1 and 2 and the intro went up very, very late at night. We launched the website very late at night. And then it was like the next morning we're talking and you're like, I just think you need to take it back down. I don't think this was the right idea. I think we need to take that. I'm not ready to do this. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. So that was an interesting moment that we navigated, but it was just a moment. It was just a moment. Not that you haven't had moments since then, though.
Are the episodes still up, or did you take them down?
No. They just I got them on my own Dropbox folder. We call it a podcast, but they're just all like MP3s in a Dropbox folder.
I love you so much, Kelly.
I love you, baby.
I tell my other guests that, but I really mean it for you.
Thank you.
It's really, really vulnerable, and I did not think that through. Like, I'm mostly asking the questions, and so...
Yeah, so what feels vulnerable to you personally?
It just feels like a large part of my heart, like this expression of each episode feels like a part of my heart and what I care most about in the world and the conversations I want to put out into the world. And so it feels every time like an episode launches, like I'm just like giving away a piece of my heart, which of course I think is actually the best way to live, but it's so vulnerable and scary. And I realize every time we put one out, like that is a piece of my heart that people can then critique and not like and not enjoy. And that's totally fine. Like, I'm the first one to say, like, my thing is not for everybody. That's definitely true. But it's just something about creating something that you care so much about and then being open to criticism that I didn't really think through. I mean, it doesn't change what we're doing, of course. I'm just surprised by the levels of vulnerability. And specifically on Wednesdays when the episodes launch, I feel so tender. I feel really, really tender to the world. It's just a piece of my heart that's now in the world that's open to anyone disagreeing or not liking, you know? And I really do actually like welcome that and want that, because I do want to be part of creating things that are disruptive and that create beauty in new ways. And so, of course, those kinds of things are not going to be loved by everyone. So I do actually like welcome that, but also recognize that puts me in a vulnerable place and makes me feel very tender.
Yes.
What about you, Kelly? Has anything else surprised you about, or even like the conversation, like what kind of, you mentioned people texting you and having further conversations after they listen. Like, what are they saying to you?
Yeah. One of the most satisfying things that people have said so far is that it feels like they're just sitting at the table with you and your guest having a meal. And like, we really had a lot of conversations about like how important that was and what we would do, and specifically what we wouldn't do with the show in the format of it, and some of the things that we would, you know, we even tried. I hope it's okay I'm saying this, but we actually tried that we were going to do this thing where Amy was going to, because a lot of podcasts do this, we were going to have a thing where Amy would record after the interview, in the days after an interview with somebody, she would like record an intro that then we would then edit into the front of the episode. And we like tried it a couple of times and it just didn't work. And so much of that was because we knew by the time like people were listening to this, like people know that like they're not listening to it live. Like that's not how podcasts are, but it was really, really important to you. And then additionally important to me that we do anything and everything we could to feel like we were getting out of the way of people being able to just, as soon as they put the headphones on and hit play, feel like they're sitting at the table. And so if you had 5 minutes of intro material, whether it was recorded at a separate time or whether it was while you were at the table with the person, it was just going to feel like a barrier for the listener just sitting down to the table with you. And so when people say, you know, I just feel like I'm just sitting there and having a conversation with Amy, I feel like a certain amount of like pride and excitement, because we like did, I think for most people, what we set out to do with that. And then I just love, just not only as a producer, but as your partner and as your spouse, it's so fun to know that a huge part of the reason that people feel like they're just sitting down and being a part of the conversation is because of the way that you personally lead those conversations, the thoughtfulness of your questions, the way that you, and I would put this actually in the surprising category. I hope this is okay to say too, but like, you've not done a podcast before.
No.
You've done a lot of different things in life. I had like the utmost confidence in your ability to like be a podcast host. And I remember saying to you after the first one, and again, I admit I'm biased, but I just was like, I can't believe you haven't done this before. Like, I can't believe with the way you lead these conversations and with how much, even when I'm here, I feel like I'm just like part of something like magical and wonderful. A huge part of that is the way that you're leading those conversations and the way that you allow space for people to have those conversations, to say what they have to say and to bring their voice to the table. So it's okay. Just share a little pride with our audience for you and about you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean
nice.
that. It's seriously been like, it's been surprising. It sounds like bad to say, like, I'm surprised just how good you are out of the gate. But like, seriously, I've been so surprised and so happy with how you've done this show so far.
Kelly, come on. You make me sound good. Thank you. Thank you. I receive all that. And I really do love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit more about behind the scenes though. And you mentioned this as producer, like so many people have commented to me on the quality and the sound of the show. And someone asked me recently, like, I know you say that you are sitting at the dining room table, but you're not really, right? Because it wouldn't sound like that. I'm like, oh no, we are.
We are.
With a pit bull in the other room, people.
Well, I told somebody the other day, like, if you like go back and listen through the first 5 episodes, you'll hear Maddox in a number of different spots. We do our best to kind of like work around it, but Maddox is present with us at each conversation.
So you make the show sound amazingly. Like, I feel like me and my guests can have great conversations because you take care of all the other details. We really are just sitting here talking, and you and Matt both really do a great job. So this isn't your first. This is my first podcast, but this is your 4th show, right?
4th or 5th, yeah.
4th or 5th that you've produced or you've hosted. So give us a little bit more behind the scenes. Like, what does it all entail to produce a podcast?
Yeah. I mean, one of the main differences between this and other shows that I've done is a number of the other shows I've done in a studio equipment, perfectly sound controlled environment. And so that's going to sound different / good right out of the gate, in a way that sitting down around a kitchen table provides some different challenges for that. So this one, when Matt, so the co-producer on the show is Matt Troop, who also composed the theme song, which
we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But we talked a lot when we were first putting together the show and the idea for how we would record it, because again, it was super important to you, and I loved it right out off the bat. We're having a dinner with the guest and then recording the conversation around the table. And it was like, okay, if people could see our apartment, like, I absolutely love our apartment, but there's a million and one things that make it the absolute wrong place to record in. And then mix that with, you want it to feel for your guest even like they're sitting down at the table and able to have a conversation with you without it feeling like there's just equipment everywhere. So Matt and I talked a lot early on about what's like the minimal amount of equipment that we can have on hand to be able to record the show and feel like we're sort of out of the way. So there are microphones here. We would not be able to record without them, but we tried to kind of set them up in a way that, like, especially once you get going with the guest, hopefully it sort of disappears for them. Like, the idea that there's a microphone in front of their face is not really prevalent for them. So that was another challenge, but something that's been really like fun to work with and really fun to kind of see the results that we could get out of it. So
that's so great. Well, you've done an amazing job. So many people comment on it. And the music. That's the other thing people say most to me is how much they love the music.
Yes. People, that's like, I feel like, especially if somebody's reaching out to me for the first time to say something about the podcast, it's almost without fail that they will include somewhere in the list of things that they like. They'll say, oh, the music is so good. The music is so good. So yeah, Matt Troop did that original song from scratch, composed it, recorded it, put the whole thing together, and I'm so happy with it. And Matt knows. Matt's a musician and has been for a really, really long time and has produced music for other podcasts. And so he knows, like, especially in that first episode, somebody hits play like the first thing they're going to hear and the first thing they're going to judge a podcast by is the song.
So true.
There's a lot of pressure to that. So Matt came up with something fantastic. So it's been so fun. And
it's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing about a little behind the scenes peek I want to talk about is I want to just talk about, I want to call this like our night hustle. I don't know if that's the right phrase or not.
It sounds a little strange.
I know, that sounds a little strange. But, you know, a lot of people have asked, you know, so what does this mean? Are you now like a podcast host? Is Kelly like a full-time podcast producer?
I've gotten this question a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, is this what you and Amy are going to do full-time now? Is this or is this one of your full-time living now?
Yeah. And how do you answer?
No, not yet. Or that would be nice. But let me talk to you about the economics of podcasting.
Yeah.
And, no, so I mean, I'm very clear right off the bat that no, we're just starting out. We're 5 episodes into a podcast that we hope will continue to find an audience of people. An ever increasing number of people will like and enjoy and subscribe to the show. But it's by no means something that like right away we're making money from. So.
Yes. I mean, we have dreams about where this could go, right? And we're building a new company and we're trying to follow God's movement the best we can to create something special for our city and this world. But we're in a place where we're still doing where I do consulting and curriculum and you're doing projects and we're hustling this podcast at night, right? And I just felt like I wanted to say that because not only because people are asking you, but because you know, sometimes on Instagram or social media or whatever, you can just see like, oh, they're just doing podcast and it's all working out and everything is great.
Right.
And this is as wonderful and lovely, as fantastic as this has been. Like it's also been on top of very full lives that we have and stress about money and all sorts of things. And so all that to say.
No, can I say something about that? Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that because it does. And I think even in like what we were just talking about like sound quality or the quality of the show or whatever, like you work so hard. We want to make it like feel professional and make it feel like it's like a really like quality offering that we're giving to people. But that can sometimes like not communicate all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes and all the things that aren't polished and all of the conversations that we're having about how does this fit in and how do we spend the amount of time that we're spending on the show, given the fact that we've got to find work and projects to work on and clients and stuff like that. And it is not easy. I mean, that's probably been I would say probably the hardest part of this so far, which is, you know, I don't want that to sound like a complaint. People, you know, like that could sound like a complaint and I don't want it to. I'm just trying to be honest about like the challenge of it, that as much as we try to put something out there that just feels like polished and great and magical unto itself, it isn't always all that.
Yes, right. And we had a lot of very generous friends and family help us get started. The mic I'm talking on right now belongs to our friend Justin, who we were at dinner with one night and told him our idea about the podcast and said, I have a mic, you can use it. And the mic you're on is Matt's mic. And friends and family helped us get this show going and started. We couldn't have done it without them.
We personally own maybe one of the cords.
Oh, yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
And then the rest of it really is, it's borrowed equipment. We were working on borrowed equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really grateful for that. And we wouldn't have been able to start the show without it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like that's really important in like behind the scenes to show people how that really all got started. And also as like encouragement, like you can do this too. If you want to do this, like you can do this. Nobody can do this on their own. And so if you want to do something like this, or you have something to say for the world, like look around your friends and family, tell them what you need, and you can do it.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the future a little bit.
Sure.
How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Are we getting a second pit bull? Is that in our future?
You know my answer to that question. I mean, it'd mean twice the sound challenges.
That's right. So the answer is no.
Record.
We only have love for one, Kelly. But let's talk about the future of this podcast.
Gotcha. Oh, about this podcast. Yes.
So we've done 5 episodes so far. If you haven't listened to them all, this is a great time to catch up. And we're going to take a little break for the next 2 weeks for the holidays. We're going to celebrate Christmas and New Year's, and hope you have a great holiday as well. We'll be back on January 9th for our second half of season 1 with 5 more guests. I wish I could tell you all of, producer, can I tell them all now?
You can give general categories.
Okay. Well, they're going to be incredible. I can't believe the people we're going to have on. More friends. A couple people coming are newer friends, which is going to be really fun. A couple I've known, a long time as well, but that's all I'm going to say, actually. Our next 5 episodes are going to be amazing.
I'm excited.
What else? What else have we got in the future of the show coming up, Kelly?
So the other thing, and this goes back in a little bit of what we were saying before, just about like trying to figure out how this all fits into our lives and what we're doing and stuff, is we've just been having a lot of conversations about how we feel like the show is going so far and what more we want to do with the show and outside of the show. And we know we're just starting out, and we know like there's a million different ways that we'll grow and look back at the first 5 episodes. Like, can you believe we did that way for 5 episodes or the first season or whatever and stuff like that? But it really is resonating with people, and the individual stories I'm hearing from people about what the show or what an episode or what a specific comment. I mean, you just heard from somebody today, a specific comment made in one episode meant something really specific to that person in their life. And I can't believe how many people that seems to be happening for already, and how often we're hearing that back. And I'm sure that there's folks that we aren't hearing from as well. So as we've been talking about it, we've been talking about just, we want to do more of this. We want to do more and more episodes of feeding people in a way that we didn't even know that we would want to do when we started. We just have more energy for it than ever. And as we're seeing that this kind of content resonates with people, and people are even like giving ideas for like, who you should have on the show, or what else you should talk about, or Amy, what else you should do.
So much.
We get so many different comments about like what else we should do, that we're just beginning to think about like, what other kinds of content could we put out there along these lines that would continue to help people and encourage people and inspire people. But as it relates to this podcast, we feel like the way that we can make it the most sustainable for us and for those that are involved in it moving forward is the best way that we've kind of found that's out there is something called Patreon. And some people that are listening might be familiar with Patreon and some might not. We'll say much more about it in January, because in January we'll launch our Patreon page, which is a way for you as the listeners to be able to give to the show on a monthly basis. And so if you've never done Patreon before, you can commit everything from like a couple of dollars all the way up to more than a couple dollars. And at each different donation level, you get different things from it, access to exclusive content or different opportunities. And so we're working through some of those details right now as we get all that set up. And in the beginning of January, we will roll out our Patreon page and invite people who are enjoying this, who are resonating with what we're doing, and who want to see and hear more of it, and want additional things from you and from the show and from guests to come their way to support us on Patreon. So more to come on that, but I'm excited about that.
I'm so excited about this. What do you are they like prizes at each level? What do you call them?
Rewards? I can't remember what
That's all I can think about.
The rewards people are going to get?
I'm like, do we have a fridge magnet? Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about like China?
Some swag. Some like really good swag.
Like, is Rick Bayless involved? Where are we at?
Well, this is good. This is an opportunity. We can crowdsource this a little bit, because we're trying to figure this out as we go.
Yes.
And there's a little bit of time because of the 2-week break here.
I mean, we have ideas.
I'm just thinking this for the first time.
I'm thinking of so many things.
But I would love to hear if there are specific things that people are listening to. This hadn't occurred to me before we recorded, but if there are things that people are listening to right now, like, reach out to us, let us know, let Amy know. Feel free to like send a message on Twitter or Instagram, or
so you subscribe at different levels, you give different amounts, and then you get different rewards.
Right. So what would people like? What kinds of things would people in line with what we're doing with this show?
Please tell us.
What kinds of things would they like the fridge magnet?
I would love a fridge magnet.
I know you would love a fridge magnet.
How much do I have to give to get a Feeding People fridge magnet?
Oh, my Christmas gift ideas.
Are bumper stickers still a thing? I feel like they're not.
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll stick to the fridge magnets. So maybe just comment on like what kind of fridge magnet, like.
So now our crowdsourcing idea is going to be brainstorming around a magnet.
Let's get this going. I love this.
With all love and respect towards magnets and your love for magnets.
Oh my gosh, I love magnets.
No, but I really would be interested if people are interested
please.
in anything specific. If they're like, oh, this would make a great Patreon reward at a certain level. Here's what I would love to see or have.
I love this. Yes, please let us know. I can't wait for that, Kelly. Okay, so we've got our 5 more episodes of season 1 coming in January and February, and then we'll take a little break, and we've already got some guests scheduled for season 2, which will follow after that. We're going to, be doing similar things, but we're going to widen the table a little bit and have some additional guests on in different categories that you maybe haven't heard from before, and I'm so excited about that.
It's going to be fun.
Okay, so let's end our show, Kelly, like we end all the other shows. I want to know, where must people eat in Chicago? Kelly Dolan's opinion.
Oh man, I knew this question was coming too. No, okay. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm gonna narrow the scope a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to narrow the scope a little bit. So I think you've mentioned on the show before, we were trying to eat more plant-based than ever before, and it means we've like substantially decreased our consumption of meat, which I think is good and right, and I want to keep going that way. But I love hamburgers so much. You know this. I have a love for burgers that will not quit. And I don't think anybody's mentioned it yet in the first 5 episodes. So it must be said, even though it's been said before. If you live in Chicago, you probably already know this. If you don't, then you need to know this for when you come to Chicago. The best burger in Chicago is at Au Cheval.
Oh.
Au Cheval.
That's so funny. I didn't see that coming.
What did you think?
No, of course, that is so undisputable. Is that the right word?
Indisputable. Sure.
But like when you were saying the best burger in Chicago, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a fight. Like people are going to fight you on this. And then you said Au Cheval. No one's going to disagree with that.
I don't think you're going to find many people who disagree, but I'd love to hear the disagreement. So give me some ideas. But no, it's so next level, above and beyond anything that you've ever experienced in a burger before. And watching them as they cook the burger, because it's an open kitchen.
We went for your birthday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
An open kitchen concept. So you actually, where you sit, almost any seat in the place, it's small. You're usually going to have to wait in line, but you can watch them make the burgers. And that is a show in itself. And it's insane. And make sure you get it with bacon on it. That's the only way to go really there.
And make sure you have like 3 hours to wait in line. But other than that, I never want a burger. I'm the opposite of you. I never have a taste for a burger. And right now, all I can think about is how I can get an Au Cheval burger like in 5 minutes.
I know.
It's so good.
It's so good. Okay, well, what about you? You haven't answered this question yet, have you?
Thank you for asking.
Yes, no, you haven't answered this question. You've asked it 5 times, and I don't think anybody's asked you back yet, have they?
I don't think so.
I'm remembering right? So I will ask you back. What's your favorite restaurant in Chicago?
This one is super easy for me because I have one favorite place. I mean, there are a million places I love to eat in Chicago, and I always want to go to new restaurants. But hands down, my favorite place is Cortino. And I go there for special occasions. So I think that even adds to it. Like it feels like the place you go for special occasions. I think we've gone for my birthday, maybe the last couple years, for your birthday, maybe.
We've gone for my birthday
anniversary. A lot, yeah. We've gone a lot, but Cortino to me like represents everything I love in a restaurant experience. Like to me, it's both about the food and the environment, and I love the perfect restaurant environment. To me, is very like homey, family, noisy, but not too noisy. Remember that one time we went to Cortino? Oh, I gotta tell the story. We went to Cortino one time and it was so noisy actually. And we were in a giant fight.
I was wondering if you were going to bring this up.
Of course I'm going to bring this up. We were in a giant fight. And so everybody was so loud. No, everyone was so loud around us and we were not talking. It was like our silence was louder than the party around us. So that was not my favorite experience. I can't believe we've like redeemed it since.
Oh yeah.
But
it wasn't just like a fight. Like that was like maybe like top 3 fights of our
like
of
we
our
were
marriage.
Silent in the cab the whole way there. I think you said, should we still go in? And I was like, yes, we're still going in.
It was excruciating. And yes, the group that was in that room with, oh my gosh. That was rough.
That was rough. But it's normally like the perfect environment. Like it's very lively and it feels like everyone knows each other. And the food is just, it's small plates of Italian handmade pasta and sauces and salads and delicious cocktails. Like everything to me is just so magical about the food. And now I feel like because it's such a special occasion place, I have so many memories of being there with different people and different groups for special occasions, which just like makes it all the better. I love it. I actually just made a reservation there for January for a group of friends.
You did. Am I part of that group of friends?
I'm really sorry you're not, Kelly.
Well, that's good. I'll be making a reservation for a group of friends of mine tomorrow.
For Acheval.
Maybe.
Kelly, I have loved every minute.
Oh, come on.
Not
this
only
is so
of
great.
this podcast with you, but of our 15 years married together.
Every minute?
Except for that one fight.
Except for Cortino. Except for those 75 minutes at Cortino.
That's all it was? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Can't believe it was only that long. Well, it was 3 days. I love you so much. Thank you for producing the show. Thank you for all of your input and wisdom. And cheers to many, many more.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me on this episode.